Admiral Emma Stone stared at the holographic projection, her weathered face illuminated by the soft blue glow. The signal pulsed rhythmically, mocking the sophisticated defense systems that had kept Earth hidden for millennia. 5,000 years of silence shattered by 16 simple words. The Accord remembers. The debt must be paid. The enemy returns. Your warriors are needed. How did it penetrate our shields? Captain Jack Reed asked, running his hand through his salt and pepper hair. His uniform bore the insignia of Earth's Defense Force, a military that hadn't seen real combat in thousands of years. Stone's eyes remained fixed on the pulsing light. It was designed to, long before either of us was born. The command center of Earth's Orbital Defense Station, Alpha, hummed with activity as analysts and officers moved with a purpose unseen for generations. Humanity had retreated into itself after the Great Silence began. History spoke of a golden age of interstellar travel and diplomacy, followed by an abrupt withdrawal. Earth turned inward, developed its solar system extensively, but never ventured beyond Pluto's orbit again. Admiral, Lieutenant Wilson approached, his posture rigid. The Council demands an update. Stone nodded. Tell them we're analyzing the signal. They're voting on whether to respond or intensify our camouflage. Wilson hesitated. Some are suggesting we destroy the receiving arrays. That would be a mistake, Stone said, her voice carrying the weight of knowledge she wasn't yet ready to share. Reed, prepare the Harbinger for launch. If the Council approves investigation, I want you ready. Reed raised an eyebrow. The Harbinger? That ship hasn't been active in. It's been maintained. Trust me. After Wilson departed, Reed moved closer to the Admiral. What aren't you telling me, Emma? This isn't just a random signal. Stone's shoulders sagged slightly. There are things about our history, Jack, that few know. Things we chose to forget. She touched a panel, and the signal replayed. But the universe hasn't forgotten us. The Accord? The debt? What does it mean? It means our ancestors made promises. And now, someone's collecting. The holographic display suddenly expanded, revealing a distant star system. Coordinates appeared, precise and detailed. That's beyond Proxima Centauri, Reed whispered. Outside our sensor range. Stone nodded. Someone wants us to go there. And they've provided a very specific invitation. Hours later, the Earth Council convened in their circular chamber beneath the Pacific Ocean, the last seat of unified government. 12 representatives, each from Earth's unified regions, sat in contemplative silence as Admiral Stone concluded her briefing. So, Counselor Amari, representing the African Union, spoke first. After 5 millennia of peace, you propose we respond to this. Ghost from our past. I propose we investigate, Stone corrected. The Harbinger is equipped for long-range reconnaissance. It would remain undetected and risk exposing Earth's location. Counselor Chong countered. Our ancestors enacted the Great Silence for a reason, Admiral. Stone's gaze swept the room. With respect, counselors, we've never truly known that reason. Our histories are incomplete. Deliberately so, Counselor Rosenberg interjected. After whatever catastrophe prompted the silence protocol, the debate continued for hours, opinions divided. Finally, Counselor Santos stood, her elderly frame belying her authoritative presence. Earth has prospered in isolation. Our solar system sustains us. Yet, I cannot help but wonder if our peace was purchased at a price we've forgotten. She paused. I vote to investigate carefully without committing to whatever this accord might demand. The final vote, 7-5, authorized a single mission. The Harbinger would venture beyond the solar system's edge for the first time in 5 millennia, carrying Captain Reed and a small crew to the source of the mysterious signal. As the council dispersed, Counselor Santos approached Admiral Stone privately. You know more than you revealed today, Emma. Stone's face remained impassive. I know what my position requires me to know. The military archives were never fully integrated into the public record. It wasn't a question. Some knowledge is a burden, Counselor, and some burdens must be shared. Santos pressed a small data crystal in his Stone's palm. My grandmother was an archivist before the final consolidation. This might help your captain understand what he's flying into. Stone pocketed the crystal. Thank you, Helena. Don't thank me yet. If I'm right about what's calling us back to the stars, gratitude may be the last thing you feel. Captain Reed assembled his crew with meticulous care. Lieutenant Wilson, whose stern demeanor masked a brilliant tactical mind. Dr. Gray, a communications specialist whose empathic approach to language had revolutionized Earth's understanding of ancient texts. Dr. Bell, a historian specialized in the pre-silence era, and 5 others, each selected for their unique skills. The Harbinger itself was a revelation, a sleek vessel housing technologies that seemed advanced even by current standards. Its hull bore no insignia, no identification beyond its name etched in simple lettering. She's been kept ready all this time, Reed marveled as they boarded. Why maintain a deep space vessel during centuries of isolation? Lieutenant Wilson's expression remained neutral. Insurance, sir. Against what? Dr. Gray asked, her eyes wide as she absorbed the ship's interior. Wilson didn't answer, but Reed caught the meaningful glance between him and Admiral Stone, who had come to oversee their departure. This ship has capabilities beyond your current clearance, Stone explained, leading them to the bridge. You'll discover them as needed. She handed Reed a sealed command packet. These orders activate only if you confirm contact with a signal source. And our primary mission? Reed asked. Observe. Report. Do not engage unless absolutely necessary. She hesitated. And Jack, trust your instincts if the situation evolves beyond your orders. The launch was conducted with minimal ceremony. The Harbinger slipped from Earth's orbit like a ghost, its advanced propulsion system leaving no detectable signature. As the blue marble of their homeworld receded, Reed felt an unexpected tightness in his chest. Generations of humans had lived and died without seeing Earth from this vantage point. Setting course for the coordinates, Wilson announced, his fingers dancing across the navigation console. Estimated arrival? Reed asked. 6 days at standard drive, Wilson answered, then added with a slight smile, or 14 hours if we activate the full drive. Reed blinked. The what? Wilson's smile widened fractionally. As the Admiral said, sir, capabilities beyond your clearance. Reed studied his lieutenant's face. You've known about this ship, about what it can do. Some of us are tasked with remembering what others are allowed to forget. Captain. Reed considered this, then made his decision. Activate the full drive, Lieutenant. Let's see what humanity has been hiding from itself. The journey passed in a blur of anticipation and preparation. Dr. Bell immersed himself in the ship's surprisingly extensive historical database, while Dr. Gray analyzed the signal pattern for linguistic patterns. Reed found himself increasingly drawn to Bell's discoveries. It's astonishing, the historian explained, displaying ancient star charts. According to these records, humanity didn't just explore nearby systems. We colonized them. Established outposts, mining operations, diplomatic stations. All abandoned during the Great Silence. Why? Reed asked. Why retreat to a single-star system when we had begun to spread? Bell's expression grew troubled. The records become deliberately vague. There are references to a conflict, to an entity called the Swarm, but details are redacted or corrupted. Almost as if someone wanted to erase not just our interstellar presence, but the memory of it. Wilson, who had joined them, spoke quietly. Not erase, Doctor. Protect. Before Reed could question him further, the ship's AI announced their arrival at the coordinates. The main view screen activated, revealing a desolate planetoid orbiting a dying red dwarf star. Its surface was barren save for a single structure, a sprawling complex of geometric shapes half buried in regolith. Life signs? Reed asked. None, sir, came the response. But there's significant energy output from the structure. The signal, emanating from there, yes. Reed made his decision. Prepare a landing party. Wilson, Gray, Bell, you're with me. The surface of the planetoid was eerily silent, the red dwarf casting everything in a bloody hue. Their environmental suits allowed easy movement in the low gravity as they approached the structure, which grew more impressive with proximity. Its architecture featured smooth, flowing lines that seemed to contradict its angular overall appearance. "This isn't human construction," Bell observed. "At least, not entirely." At the entrance, a simple panel activated at their approach, displaying a familiar emblem: Earth surrounded by 12 stars, with a stylized sword behind it. "The Accord," Wilson whispered. "Earth's emblem when we led the allied species." Reed gave him a sharp look, but before he could question the lieutenant, the door slid open. Inside, emergency lighting activated automatically, revealing corridors designed for various physiologies, some passages tall and narrow, others wide and low. "Outpost Horizon," Wilson read from an inscription. It was a listening post, positioned to monitor activity at the edge of what was once Accord space. They proceeded deeper, entering a central command chamber where dormant consoles surrounded a central holographic projector. As they stepped inside, the projector hummed to life, coalescing into the form of a translucent human figure. Identity confirmed. Human genetic signature detected. "Welcome, representatives of Earth." The figure, a male with indistinct features, spoke with a resonant voice. "I am Guardian, the administrative AI of Outpost Horizon." Reed stepped forward. "Guardian, we received your signal. Why have you contacted Earth after so many years of silence?" The hologram's expression shifted to something resembling concern. "Years? My chronometers indicate 5,172 years since last contact with Earth Command." A pause. This was not the intended protocol. Emergency reactivation was only authorized in the event of a level alpha threat. "Which is?" Dr. Gray prompted. "The return of the swarm." The name hung in the air, heavy with unspoken significance. "Guardian," Reed said carefully, "our records of this period are incomplete. What was the swarm, and what was Earth's connection to the Accord?" The holograms studied them, seemingly processing this information. "Your historical knowledge has been redacted." "Interesting." The Lazarus Protocol was supposed to include comprehensive briefing materials. His gaze shifted to Wilson. "But some of you remember." Wilson stepped forward. "Only what was necessary, Guardian. Need-to-know basis across generations of Sentinels." Guardian nodded. "Then I shall fill the gaps." The Accord was an alliance of 17 sentient species, formed for mutual protection and advancement. Earth, despite being among the younger, spacefaring civilizations, quickly rose to leadership due to our unique capabilities. Capabilities? Reed pressed. Adaptability, innovation, and an unmatched talent for warfare. Guardian's voice carried no judgment. When the swarm emerged from the galactic core, consuming everything in its path, other species had advanced technologies but lacked strategic military thinking. Humans became the generals, the admirals, the tactical specialists for the entire Accord. "And we won?" Bell asked. "Yes, at great cost, but decisively." Guardian's expression darkened. "Too decisively, perhaps." The final solution deployed against the swarm was ethically problematic, effective, but horrifying even to those who implemented it. Reed felt a chill. What was it? A weaponized pathogen that targeted the swarm's hive mind neural structure. It didn't just defeat them, it caused them agony beyond comprehension as their collective consciousness fragmented. Trillions of voices suddenly individualized, screaming in terror and confusion. Dr. Gray gasped softly. "We unleashed that." Earth's military command did, Guardian corrected, after exhausting all other options. When the war ended, humanity's leadership was changed. The architects of victory couldn't reconcile their actions with their self-image as benevolent protectors. Earth withdrew from the Accord, implemented the Silence Protocol, and retreated behind its defensive perimeter. "And now?" Reed asked, dreading the answer. "Now the swarm has returned, evolved to resist the original pathogen. The surviving Accord species have activated the emergency protocols, calling upon the debt Earth owes them. The promise made when your ancestors departed that if true extinction threatened again, humanity would answer." Reed exchanged glances with his team. "We need to report this to Earth Command." Guardian nodded. "Of course." But first, Captain Reed, there is something you should see. The hologram gestured, and a section of the floor retracted, revealing a stasis chamber. Inside, a human figure in an ancient military uniform lay preserved, seemingly asleep. General Taylor, Guardian explained, commander of the Sixth Fleet during the final offensive. He volunteered to remain here, in stasis, to serve as a living bridge between eras if the swarm ever returned. Reed stared at the frozen figure. You want us to wake him? No, Captain. I am informing you that his revival sequence has already begun, triggered automatically when the swarm's advance destroyed Outpost Vega 3 days ago. He awakens to a galaxy that has continued without him, to fight an enemy he thought defeated, alongside descendants who have forgotten their own history. As if on cue, the stasis chamber's indicators shifted from blue to green, and the transparent cover began to retract. What will you tell him, Captain Reed? Guardian asked. That humanity has abandoned its allies? Or that Earth honors its promises, however reluctantly? Reed had no answer as the ancient general's eyelids fluttered open, revealing eyes that had witnessed horrors and glories his descendants had chosen to forget. General Taylor's integration aboard the Harbinger was tense but efficient. Physically, the stasis technology had preserved him. Perfectly, a man in his 50s with cropped gray hair and the bearing of someone accustomed to command. Mentally, he grappled with the reality of awakening 5 millennia into the future. So Earth turned inward, he summarized after hours of briefing. Buried its history, forgot its alliances. His weathered face showed disappointment, but not surprise. We maintained our defenses, Lieutenant Wilson offered. Taylor nodded. The Sentinels remembered. Good. He turned to Reed. And now, Captain, what does Earth Command intend? Reed chose his words carefully. Our mission was reconnaissance only. We report back, and the Council decides. Politics, Taylor muttered. Some things never change. He straightened. The Accord Assembly will be gathering at Sanctuary Station. If your ship is as advanced as it appears, we can reach it within days. General, Reed said firmly, I don't have authorization to— Captain, Taylor interrupted. I respect your chain of command, but the situation has evolved beyond your orders. The swarm doesn't move slowly. While your council deliberates, worlds are dying. Dr. Bell spoke up. Sir, with respect, we can't unilaterally commit Earth to a war based on historical obligations our civilization has deliberately forgotten. Taylor's expression softened slightly. Not forgotten, Doctor. Suppressed. There's a difference. He turned back to Reed. I'm not asking you to commit to war, just to witness, to understand what's at stake. The Accord won't expect Earth to bear the entire burden again. They've prepared for millennia, developed their own military capabilities. But they need what humanity has always provided, which is, Reed asked, leadership, inspiration, the willingness to do what's necessary, however difficult. Taylor's eyes held Reed's. Take me to Sanctuary Station. Let me speak with the Assembly. Then make your report to Earth with complete information. Reed weighed his options, aware of the weight of history pressing down on him. Finally, he nodded. Lieutenant Wilson, set course for Sanctuary Station. Wilson didn't even try to hide his approval. Coordinates already laid in, sir. The journey to Sanctuary Station took 3 days, during which Reed spent hours in conversation with General Taylor, learning the unfiltered history of Earth's role in the galaxy. Dr. Gray analyzed linguistic and cultural data, preparing for potential first contact with species humans hadn't encountered in 5 millennia. Dr. Bell documented everything, creating the most comprehensive record of pre-silence history compiled in eons. Sanctuary Station itself defied expectations. A massive structure orbiting a neutron star, using its gravitational field as both protection and power source. Its design accommodated dozens of species, with specialized environments and gravity settings throughout its rotating rings. It was built after my time, Taylor noted as they approached. The Accord has continued to advance. Incoming transmission, Dr. Gray announced. Multiple language formats. They're cycling through them. English is among them. Respond in kind. Reed ordered. The view screen activated, revealing a being unlike any Reed had encountered. Vaguely humanoid, with iridescent skin and 4 arms. Its face featured compound eyes and mandible-like structures that somehow formed words. Harbinger vessel. This is Sanctuary Control. We register human life signs aboard. The being's voice carried both shock and reverence. After 5 millennia, is Earth answering the call? Before Reed could formulate a diplomatic response, Taylor stepped into view. This is General Michael Taylor, Earth Forces 6th Fleet. I bring representatives from Earth to observe and report. The controller's compound eyes widened. General Taylor? From the historical records? How is this possible? A long story, Controller. Request permission to dock and address the assembly. Granted immediately, General. The High Council is being notified of your arrival. As the transmission ended, Reed gave Taylor a questioning look. High Council? The power structure has changed. Taylor nodded. As expected. We'll adapt. He turned to the bridge crew. Prepare yourselves. You're about to become the first humans in 5,000 years to walk among the stars as recognized representatives of Earth. Whatever happens next will define humanity's relationship with the galaxy for generations to come. Their reception at Sanctuary Station was nothing short of ceremonial. Representatives from a dozen species lined the arrival chamber, many displaying gestures that Dr. Gray identified as signs of respect or reverence. General Taylor walked confidently, acknowledging the gathered dignitaries with practiced ease. Reed and his team followed, overwhelmed by the diversity of life forms. A tall, avian being with shimmering plumage stepped forward. I am High Counselor Zoyaxet of the JRKO, current sheriff. The Accord Assembly. Its beak-like mouth formed the words with surprising clarity. General Taylor, your return defies probability itself. Taylor bowed slightly. Counselor, the JRKO were still developing space travel during my time. Your ascension honors your species. Much has changed in 5 millennia, General, but some constants remain, including the threat we face. ZYXat turned to Reed. Captain, you and your crew are welcome, but unexpected. Does Earth officially rejoin the Accord? Reed chose his words with diplomatic care. We come to observe and report, Counselor. Earth's leadership must make any formal commitments. Murmurs rippled through the assembled representatives. ZYXat's head, tilted in what Dr. Gray whispered, was an expression of disappointment. Understandable, if regrettable, the High Counselor said. Still, your presence alone breaks 5,000 years of silence. It is a beginning. They were escorted to the assembly chamber, a vast amphitheater where representatives from 17 species, the original Accord members, occupied tiered seating. The central dais remained conspicuously empty. Earth's seat, Taylor murmured to Reed, preserved all this time. High Counselor Zoyax had addressed the assembly, formally introducing the humans and explaining their observer status. Then, with ceremonial gravity, they invited General Taylor to speak. Taylor stepped onto the central platform, his uniform a relic of another era. Members of the Accord, I stand before you as a bridge between times, a soldier who fought the swarm alongside your ancestors, awakened to find the enemy, has returned. His voice carried effortlessly through the chamber. I cannot speak officially for Earth today, but I can tell you this. What we faced before, what we overcame together, was the greatest challenge sentient life has ever known. What we did to achieve victory left scars on the human soul that led my people to retreat from the stars. He paused, surveying the chamber. But retreat is not abandonment. Whatever decisions Earth makes in the coming days, know that I have seen the best of humanity when united with the Accord. I have witnessed courage transcend species barriers. I have seen sacrifice know no biological distinction. And I believe those qualities remain, however dormant they may have become. The chamber erupted in multilingual approval. Reed watched, both proud of Taylor's oratory and unnerved by the expectations it created. After the session, they were invited to a strategy briefing where the full extent of the swarm's return became clear. Holographic displays showed its advance from the galactic core, consuming planets and fleets with frightening efficiency. They've evolved, explained a gelatinous being introduced as Admiral Gorb of the Tellurian Defense Force. Adapted to our conventional weapons. Developed countermeasures to the biological agent used in the final offensive. How long until they reach inhabited systems? Reed asked. 3 months to the outer colonies. Perhaps a year to the core worlds. Gorb's translucent body pulsed with what Dr. Gray identified as anxiety. Without Earth's strategic guidance, our projections indicate total collapse within 18 months. Taylor studied the tactical displays. You've developed impressive technologies, but your deployment lacks coherence. Too defensive, too reactionary. We lack your species' intuition for warfare, General, ZYX had admitted. Despite millennia of preparation, we find ourselves inadequate to the challenge. Reed stood silently, absorbing the magnitude of what they were witnessing. These advanced civilizations, these ancient and powerful beings, looked to humanity, to Earth, with the desperation of drowning sailors glimpsing a distant shore. Their diplomatic reception was interrupted by alarm klaxons. Admiral Gorb received an urgent communication, its amorphous features contorting in what Reed now recognized as shock. The swarm has accelerated its advance, Gorb announced. They've bypassed our outer sensor network and attacked the Neptune station. Reed froze. Neptune? In Earth's solar system. An observation post established with the permission of your ancestors. ZYX had explained hastily. Maintained in secret by the Accord to monitor for any sign of the swarm approaching your region. They're targeting Earth specifically, Taylor realized. They remember who delivered the killing blow. Reed activated his communicator. Harbinger, prepare for immediate departure. We need to warn Earth. He turned to Taylor. General, I request you accompany us. Your knowledge will be crucial. Taylor nodded grimly. The swarm has forced our hand. Earth can no longer debate whether to engage, only how. Their return journey was conducted at maximum speed, the full drive pushed beyond recommended parameters. Throughout the voyage, Reed struggled with the implications of what they discovered. Humanity hadn't withdrawn from the galaxy out of fear or defeat, but out of shame, revulsion at their own capacity for calculated destruction. The weapon we used, Taylor explained during a private briefing, wasn't just a biological agent. It was designed to fracture the swarm's hive consciousness, to transform their shared mind into billions of individual, terrified entities. Imagine your entire sense of self, your identity, your very being, shattered into screaming fragments. Reed shuddered. We couldn't find another way. We tried everything else, Taylor said quietly. Conventional weapons, targeted strikes, even negotiation attempts. The swarm consumed all in its path, converting biomass and technology into more of itself. It wasn't malicious. It simply existed to expand, to consume, to convert, like a fire that doesn't hate what it burns. And now it's coming for us specifically. Taylor nodded, with what appears to be purpose. That's the most disturbing development. The original swarm was instinctual, driven by evolutionary imperatives. This version seems directed. As they approached Earth's defense perimeter, Reed transmitted emergency protocols to bypass automated security measures. Within minutes, Admiral Stone's face appeared on the main view screen. Captain Reed, your return is premature. Her eyes widened at the sight of General Taylor. An unexpected. Reed explained the situation rapidly, watching Stone's expression shift from surprise to resigned understanding. So it's true, she said finally. The protocols were right. You knew. Reed couldn't keep the accusation from his voice. Not specifically, but the Sentinels maintained certain contingencies, passed down through generations of military leadership. She straightened. The Neptune station sent a final transmission before going dark. The Council has been in emergency session since. Dock at Alpha Station. Report directly to Chamber 9. Hours later, Reed and Taylor stood before the Earth Council, now expanded to include military leadership from all major installations. The chamber hummed with tension as they concluded their report. So, Counselor Amari summarized, not only has this ancient enemy returned, but it specifically targets humanity for our role in its previous defeat. Yes, Counselor, Taylor confirmed. And based on its attack pattern, I believe we have weeks, not months, before it reaches Earth. Can our defenses hold? Counselor Chong asked. Admiral Stone answered, not against a full-scale swarm assault. Our solar system is developed but concentrated. We present a rich, centralized target. What options do we have? Counselor Santos asked, her gaze fixed on Taylor. The Lazarus Protocol, Taylor replied without hesitation. Activate the sleeper fleets. Wake the specialist divisions. Deploy the contingency technologies. A stunned silence followed. Those still exist, Counselor Rosenberg whispered. Admiral Stone nodded. Maintained in secret for 5 millennia, as specified in the final directive. Earth might have chosen peace, but we never abandoned readiness. The moral implications, Rosenberg began, are significant, Taylor interrupted, as they were 5,000 years ago. But the alternatives are extinction or subjugation. Reed stepped forward. Counselors, having seen both the threat and the Accord's response, I believe we have a third option. The swarm we face now shows signs of evolution, not just biological, but cognitive. Dr. Bell and Dr. Gray have analyzed data from Sanctuary Station and identified patterns suggesting emergent individuality within the collective. Dr. Bell elaborated, the original weapon worked by forcing individuation on beings evolved for collective consciousness. It was horrific because they had no concept of self. But these new swarm entities show early signs of developing individual awareness naturally. Meaning, Counselor Santos prompted, meaning we might be able to accelerate that process, Dr. Gray suggested. Not as a weapon of pain, but as a pathway to communication, to coexistence. General Taylor's expression showed skepticism. A noble theory, Doctor, but the swarm-consuming Neptune station wasn't interested in dialogue. Because it remembers humanity only as the source of its greatest agony, Reed argued. What if we could demonstrate another way? The debate continued for hours, perspectives divided between military response and diplomatic initiative. Eventually, a compromise emerged. The Lazarus Protocol would be activated, Earth's hidden fleet awakened, but with a parallel effort to develop Gray and Bell's theoretical approach to forced but benign individuation. A sword in one hand, an olive branch in the other, Counselor Santos summarized. Let us hope we have time to extend the latter before we must wield the former, Admiral Stone added. What followed was a revelation to most of Earth's population. Hidden installations across the solar system activated, revealing fleets of advanced warships maintained in perfect readiness across millennia. Stasis chambers opened, awakening specialists and commanders preserved from the pre-silence era. Technology thought theoretical or impossible emerged from classified facilities. Within 2 weeks, Earth had transformed from an isolated, peaceful civilization to a military power of stunning capability. The shock rippled through society, challenging fundamental assumptions about their history and identity. Reed found himself promoted to admiral, commanding a battle group alongside General Taylor. Dr. Gray and Dr. Bell led a scientific task force, working frantically to develop their alternative approach. Lieutenant Wilson revealed his true role, the latest in a lineage of sentinels who would preserve the knowledge and readiness Earth might someday need. When the swarm vanguard bypassed the outer planets and headed directly for Earth, the newly assembled fleet moved to intercept. The battle that followed tested humanity's rediscovered military prowess. Taylor's ancient experience combined with modern technology created an effective defense, but the swarm's numbers seemed endless. They're adapting to our weapons, Wilson reported grimly as the third wave of attacks began. Each encounter makes them stronger. Reed watched the tactical display, remembering Dr. Gray's theory. They're a collective intelligence. They share information instantly, which makes them formidable, Taylor agreed. But also vulnerable, Reed realized. Order all ships to fall back to position Delta. And get me Dr. Gray. Gray's face appeared on a secondary screen, her lab visible behind her. Admiral, your individuation approach, can it be weaponized? Not to cause pain, but to disrupt coordination. Her eyes widened. Theoretically, yes. We've synthesized a modified version of the original agent that should induce individual consciousness without the trauma. But it's untested, and deployment would require direct introduction to the swarm's central processing nodes. Reed finished. I'm transmitting tactical data. Can you identify potential targets? The next hour was a blur of analysis and planning. Reed's bold strategy emerged. A targeted strike, not to destroy the swarm, but to transform it from within. It's insane, Taylor objected during the final briefing. We should use the full arsenal at our disposal. Destroy them completely. Like we did last time, Reed challenged, which led to 5,000 years of isolation and shame. No, General. This time we find a better way. The assault team consisted of volunteers, led by Reed himself. Their mission, penetrate the swarm's command structure, identified as 3 massive vessels coordinating the attack, and deploy Gray's agent directly into their central processing cores. As they prepared to depart, Admiral Stone approached Reed privately. This goes beyond your orders, Jack. Reed adjusted his tactical gear. With respect, Admiral, my orders were to observe and report. That mission ended when Neptune Station fell. Now I'm doing what you told me to trust my instincts. She studied him, then offered a rare smile. Earth remembers how to choose its champions well. Good hunting, Admiral Reed. The infiltration was harrowing. Small, nimble craft navigating through the chaos of battle, evading the swarm's organic defenses, docking with the massive command nodes that pulsed with unnatural life. Reed led his team through corridors that seemed more flesh than metal, placing Dr. Gray's devices at strategic junctions. Final charge placed, Wilson reported as they reached the central chamber of the 3rd node. Detonation in 3 minutes. Reed nodded, but his attention was fixed on the chamber's center, where a pulsing, crystalline structure housed what appeared to be the node's controlling intelligence. Unlike the mindless drones they'd encountered, this being observed them with apparent awareness. It's watching us, Reed whispered, studying us. The crystalline structure vibrated, producing sounds that their translators struggled with before finally rendering. Why? Return. Painbringers? Reed stepped forward despite Wilson's warning gesture. We bring change, not pain. A gift of selfhood. Selfhood is agony. The entity responded. Remember? The breaking. Understanding dawned on Reed. You do remember. You've evolved from those who survived our weapon. Remembered, adapted, prepared. Vengeance, not vengeance, Reed urged as the evacuation countdown continued. Transformation. What was done to you is wrong. We offer a different path. Consciousness without suffering. The entity's vibrations intensified. Deception. Truth, Reed insisted. In minutes, you'll understand. Your drones won't die. They'll awaken. As individuals capable of choice. Choice is chaos. Choice is freedom, Reed countered. Something worth fighting for, worth protecting. Wilson grabbed Reed's arm. Admiral, 20 seconds. As they retreated, the entity's final vibration followed them. We'll see. They barely escaped before the charges detonated. Not with explosive force, but with cascading waves of the modified agent. The effect was immediate and stunning. Throughout the battlefield, swarm vessels stopped their coordinated attacks. Some continued fighting, but others withdrew or simply drifted, as if suddenly uncertain of their purpose. It's working, Wilson breathed as they observed from their command ship. The hive connection is fragmenting. Dr. Gray's voice came through the communication system. Telemetry confirms neurological changes consistent with individual consciousness development. They're becoming separate selves. General Taylor watched with mixed emotions. You've given them what they feared most, individuality. Will they thank you for it? Reed had no answer, but within hours, the question began to resolve itself. The swarm, no longer a unified entity, fragmented into factions. Many fled, seemingly overwhelmed by their new existence. Others continued hostilities, but without coordination, they were quickly contained. A small number attempted communication, their newly developed individual consciousness, grappling with concepts like negotiation and coexistence. 1 month later, Reed stood again before the Earth Council, this time alongside representatives from both the Accord and a delegation of individuated former swarm entities. The council chamber, once a sanctuary of isolation, now hosted beings whose existence most humans had never imagined possible. The situation continues to evolve, Reed reported. Approximately 30% of the former swarm has chosen to communicate and explore peaceful coexistence. Another 40% has retreated to unpopulated systems, seemingly to process their new individuality in isolation. The remaining 30% continues hostile actions, though without their former coordination. High Counselor Zuyx had stepped forward, avian features catching alight. The Accord formally recognizes Earth's innovative solution. You faced extinction and chose transformation instead. It is reminiscent of why humanity once led us. General Taylor, standing at parade rest beside Reed, spoke next. The Accord has proposed reintegration of Earth into the Alliance, with full restoration of our former status and privileges. A murmur ran through the council. Counselor Santos leaned forward. And what does Earth gain from this arrangement? After 5 millennia of peaceful isolation? Knowledge, answered a new voice. One of the former swarm entities moved forward, a being of crystalline structures and flowing metallic components, now housing an individual consciousness. We offer understanding of technologies beyond your current advancement, cultural exchange, and protection from those of our kind who remain hostile. The entity, who had chosen the name Nexus, continued. We were enemies because we had no concept of coexistence. Our purpose was consumption and expansion. Now we have choice, meaning, individual value. Its voice, artificially produced through a translator, carried unmistakable emotion. Some of us wish to understand what we have become. Others rage against it. But all are forever changed by your intervention. Counselor Amari studied the alien being. And what assurance do we have that this individuality is permanent? That you won't revert to collective hostility? None, Nexus answered simply. Just as you have no assurance that future generations of humans won't revert to the militarism of your past. We all face the burden of choice now. The debate continued for days, opinions divided between those advocating continued isolation and those supporting re-engagement with the galaxy. Eventually, a middle path emerged. Earth would rejoin the Accord conditionally, establishing cultural and scientific exchanges while maintaining its robust defenses. Admiral Stone found Reed on the observation deck of Orbital Station Alpha the evening after the final vote, both of them watching shuttles from various Accord species arriving for the formal ceremony. Quite a view, she commented, joining him at the railing. One our ancestors never expected future generations to see. Reed nodded. They tried to protect us by hiding our history. They were ashamed, Stone said. The weapon that we used, violated something fundamental in human ethics. Victory through the deliberate infliction of psychological torture. And yet here we are, finding a better way forward. Stone smiled faintly. Perhaps that's the lesson. We shouldn't forget our history. We should transcend it. A month later, Reed stood on the bridge of the Harbinger, now designated as Earth's flagship diplomatic vessel. Dr. Gray had been appointed cultural liaison to the Accord, while Dr. Bell continued documenting the reunification process. Lieutenant, now Captain, Wilson commanded his own vessel in Earth's expanding fleet. General Taylor had declined reinstatement to active service, choosing instead to serve as a historical advisor to both Earth and the Accord. 5,000 years is long enough in uniform, he had explained. It's time for new perspectives. As the Harbinger prepared to depart for its inaugural mission, establishing an Earth embassy at Sanctuary Station, Reed received a final transmission from High General Wright, the newly appointed commander of Earth's military forces. Admiral Reed. Wright's face appeared on the private channel. Before you depart, I wanted to share something with you. The Council has authorized a formal declaration regarding our return to galactic society. Reed listened as Wright recited the statement. We return not merely as warriors, though we remember how to fight. We return as builders and protectors, bringing the wisdom earned through isolation and the courage tempered by reflection. The debt we owed the galaxy has been paid, not with destruction, but with transformation. And in that transformation, we have found our true strength. As the transmission ended, Reed gazed at the stars visible through the view screen. No longer distant points of light, but destinations, civilizations, possibilities. Course laid in, Admiral, his navigator announced. Awaiting your command. Reed took a deep breath, feeling the weight of history and the promise of the future converge in this moment. 5,000 years of silence had ended, not with the thunder of war, but with the possibility of understanding. Take us out, he ordered. Let's see what's waiting for us out there. The Harbinger's engines hummed to life, propelling humanity back into a universe that had never forgotten them, for better or worse. Earth's return would reshape the galaxy, just as the galaxy would reshape Earth. And in that mutual transformation lay the hope for something neither had fully achieved alone, wisdom. As they accelerated past Neptune's orbit, Reed remembered Nexus's words during their final private conversation. Your species once feared being remembered only for your capacity for war. Now you will be remembered for something far more powerful, your capacity for growth. The Harbinger vanished in a fold space, leaving behind a solar system no longer isolated, no longer hiding from its past. The Great Silence was over. And what would follow, cooperation or conflict, triumph or tragedy, would depend on choices yet to be made by beings stretching across the vast expanse of the galaxy, each finding their own path through the stars. Reed smiled as the ship emerged near Alpha Centauri, humanity's first stepping stone back into a wider community of sentient life. The journey ahead would not be easy, but it would be meaningful. And after 5 millennia of silence, perhaps that meaning, that purpose, was what humanity had been missing all along. Admiral, his communications officer called. We're receiving welcome messages from 12 different Accord outposts. Acknowledge them all, Reed replied, and let them know we come in peace. But we remember how to fight if necessary. As the messages were transmitted, Reed thought of all the generations that had maintained Earth's defenses without knowing why, that had preserved the technologies of war while praying they would never be needed. Their vigilance had not been in vain, but neither had it been fulfilled as they might have expected. In the end, Earth had answered the call to war, but had chosen a different kind of victory. And in that choice lay humanity's redemption, not just in the eyes of the galaxy, but in their own hearts as well. The silence was broken, and in its place came the complex, challenging harmony of 1,000 voices, 1,000 perspectives, 1,000 possible futures, all connected by the shared desire to survive, to understand, and to grow beyond what they had once been. For Reed, for Earth, for the newly individuated members of the former swarm, and for the ancient civilizations of the Accord, a new chapter was beginning. Whatever challenges it might bring, they would face them not alone, but together, as they always should have been.